Have you ever been in a moment where everything seemed to fall apart? Fear surrounds you and you just wish that there was a divine hand reaching out to pull you up. Psalm 91 is the answer to those moments, a love song of protection. A whisper of protection. And a powerful promise that you never have to face life alone. This psalm is not just ancient words written on paper, but a living spiritual treasure that brings eternal hope. Imagine, you are standing in the middle of a storm. The rain seemed to want to knock down everything around. But at that moment, you entered a strong fortress. A place of absolute safety that no storm can invade. That is the image Psalm 91 paints, a shadow of divine wings. An unwavering promise that you will always be covered and protected. In those powerful words, you will find images of God as a merciful Father. Always open your arms to protect your children from all dangers and challenges. And even if you don't realize it, the angels sent by God always quietly guard every step you take. Those promises not only comfort, but also aroused a strong belief that, no matter where you are, no matter what you're facing, you are always guided and surrounded by God. Enter the story of Psalm 91. To feel each level of emotion that the Psalms bring. To see that even in the midst of the most difficult challenges, you always have a source of divine power greater than yourself. Psalm 91 begins with a profound invitation. Like a gentle whisper from the very heart of God. Come, dwell in the secret place of the Most High and abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This invitation is not an empty promise, but a firm assurance that absolute protection and peace are prepared for those who choose to enter into an intimate relationship with Him. Imagine standing in the midst of a great storm, with the wind blowing so fiercely that you cannot see the path ahead. But at that moment, a refuge appears. Not an ordinary house, but a strong fortress where no danger can reach you. This is the image portrayed by Psalm 91. A place of shelter that not only protects you from all external dangers, but also brings peace to your soul. A state of calmness that nothing in the world can shake. When the psalmist uses the term, secret place, it signifies more than just a safe location. It represents a spiritual space where your soul connects with God. A place where you are not only protected but also restored. Nurtured by His love and presence. This is not a fleeting connection, but a lifelong commitment. Building your life upon the foundation of a continuous and enduring relationship with God. The next image, abiding under the shadow of the Almighty, carries a powerful symbolic meaning, evoking a sense of safety and peace. The shadow of the Almighty is not just a shield from the scorching heat of life, but a symbol of His power, protection, and unconditional love. In His shadow, we are not only shielded, but also healed, nourished by the presence of an Almighty God who cares deeply about every small detail of our lives. This is not a vague protection, but a specific promise, a reality you can experience when you choose to live close to Him. Picture yourself walking in that shadow, knowing that nothing in this world can make you afraid. For you are protected by the very one who created everything. One of the most beautiful images in Psalm 91 is being sheltered under the wings of God. This image conveys a sense of intimacy. Like a mother bird spreading her wings to protect her chicks from all harm. These wings are not only a symbol of strength but also of gentleness. We are not only shielded by a strong fortress, but also embraced in loving arms. This is a reminder that God is not only the powerful Lord of heaven, but also a loving Father, who cares about every little detail of our lives. Under these wings, you not only find safety but also experience peace that nothing in this world can offer. The verse, "He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways," emphasizes God's personal and direct involvement in our lives. Angels are not merely abstract symbols. but real entities entrusted with the mission to protect and guide you every step of the way. Have you ever wondered why you miraculously escaped a dangerous situation? Or felt an unexplainable peace during times of hardship? That is the work of God's angels, ever present to shield and lead you. God commands His angels to watch over you not only in moments when you are aware of danger, but also in times when you are completely unaware of the perils surrounding you. This reveals not only God's power, but also affirms His constant presence with you, even when you do not recognize it. God's protection extends beyond physical dangers, to include emotional and spiritual threats. In life, we face not only external threats, but also internal struggles with fears, doubts, and wounds. Psalm 91 serves as a reminder that nothing, whether visible or invisible, can surpass the power and protection of God. When you dwell under the shadow of the Almighty, you are shielded from external dangers, and healed from the inner wounds of the soul. This is an invitation to let go of fear, and completely surrender to God, trusting that He will guard you in every circumstance. The phrase, "the secret place of the Most High," carries profound meaning about stepping away from the world. It highlights that to receive God's protection, we must retreat from the noise and distractions of the world, seeking stillness to connect with Him. This is not isolation but a state of mind, where we can clearly hear God's voice, feel His guidance, and experience true peace. This requires commitment, focus, and absolute trust in God. Psalm 91 invites us not just to turn to God in difficult times, but to live in Him. Depend on Him every day, every hour, and every moment of our lives. The shadow of the Almighty is not merely a symbolic concept, but a living reality, a protective presence that surpasses all human understanding. It is a refuge that not only shields us from visible dangers, such as disasters or evident crises, but also guards us from invisible threats, the dangers we cannot perceive, spiritual traps, doubts, and even the anxieties we carry within ourselves. A real-life story illustrates this truth. During the pandemic, a mother faced the fear of illness and economic instability with her family. She decided to pray daily based on Psalm 91. Miraculously, her family was not only protected in terms of health, but she also experienced an extraordinary peace that enveloped her soul, helping her guide her children through this challenging period. With patience and hope, His shadow covers everything, from the visible before our eyes to the hidden dangers lurking in the darkness. This not only reflects God's infinite power, but also demonstrates His meticulous care. He sees not only what we can see, but also understands the things we do not know are happening in our lives. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield, facing dangers from every side, yet always feeling an invisible shield of protection. A veteran recounted that in his most perilous moments, when everything seemed hopeless, he distinctly felt a power shielding him from bullets. Later, upon reading Psalm 91, he understood that it was the shadow of the Almighty protecting him in that moment. Living under the shadow of the Almighty is an invitation to let go of worries and completely entrust ourselves to God. In a world filled with uncertainties and fears, this invitation is a guiding light. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a raging storm, with swirling winds shaking everything around you. God's shadow is like a safe haven amid that storm, a place where you are not only protected from harm, but also find profound peace. However, to step into that shadow, you must relinquish control, something we often find difficult to do. By surrendering, we recognize that God's power is greater than any fear or challenge we face. A businessman once shared that during the hardest days of his career, when his business was in crisis and every solution seemed to fail, he began letting go of his worries and praying each morning, placing his full trust in God. The result was not only peace in his heart, but solutions began to appear in unexpected ways. Living under his shadow is not merely an invitation, but a way of life that brings freedom from the pressures of the world. Through its powerful and emotional imagery, Psalm 9:1 is not just a prayer or a song, but a profound reminder of the deep relationship that God desires to build with each of us. The image of the shadow of the Almighty is like a great umbrella, shielding us from the scorching heat and torrential rains of life. But what makes it special is that this umbrella not only protects, but also brings peace and healing. When you live under his shadow, you not only feel secure, but also find yourself restored and renewed. A woman who struggled with depression after losing a loved one shared how Psalm 91 became her spiritual anchor. Whenever she read it, she felt God's presence draw closer, and his shadow helped her overcome the darkest days of her life. God's protection is not random, but a carefully designed plan born of his love. Think of driving on a narrow road, with cliffs on both sides, unable to see the way ahead. But there is a guide sitting beside you, directing every step, ensuring you don't go astray. This is how the shadow of the Almighty works. Always beside you, protecting and guiding you, even when you cannot see the dangers ahead. A father once shared how, when his young daughter got lost in a forest, he prayed fervently, relying on Psalm 91. Throughout the search, an unexplainable peace filled him. And eventually, the child was found safe. In a situation that seemed almost impossible. The protection provided by God's shadow is not just physical, but also spiritual and emotional. We often fail to realize that the fears and worries within our hearts are significant dangers from which we also need deliverance. Living under his shadow means being shielded not only from external threats, but also from the inner wounds of the soul. Psalm 91 invites us into a relationship where nothing can harm our spirit, because we are surrounded by God's love and power. What is important is that the shadow of the Almighty is not only a refuge in times of trouble, but also an invitation to live a life rooted in absolute trust in him. Living under his shadow is not a passive state, but an active commitment, a daily dedication to seek his presence in every decision and step we take. This requires us to relinquish control, to believe that God knows what is best for us, and that he will always act for our benefit. A young man once shared how, when faced with a major career decision, he devoted much time to prayer and reading Psalm 91. God's shadow not only gave him peace, but also the clarity to make the right choice. Psalm 91 speaks not only of what God can do, but also of how we can respond to him. With trust, with prayer, and by living every day under his shadow. When we choose to do this, we not only find safety, but also discover peace, meaning, and purpose for our lives. Let the shadow of the Almighty be your place of refuge, not just in times of trouble, but in every moment of life. The shadow of the Almighty is not only a shelter from obvious dangers, but also a shield from hidden threats we cannot perceive. His shadow covers everything, not just what we can see, but also the unseen. This emphasizes not only God's power, but also his careful and detailed care in protecting us. Living under the shadow of the Almighty is an invitation to let go of worry and fully entrust ourselves to God, trusting that he will always guide and protect us. Through its powerful and emotional imagery, Psalm 91 is not just a prayer or a song, but a profound reminder of the special relationship God desires to have with us. His protection is not merely a privilege but an invitation, calling us to step into his presence, to live in peace, and to trust in his power. Psalm 91 speaks not only of what God can do, but also of how we can respond to Him. With trust, with prayer. Being with God is not just a mental or emotional state, but a proactive action. A profound decision to trust Him completely in every aspect of life. When you truly enter into an intimate relationship with God, you no longer have to shoulder your worries alone or face challenges alone. This does not mean that you will avoid all difficulties, but you will have a place to hide, a safe shade, and a guide always present with you. Living in the shadow of the Almighty is your invitation to experience a life shaped by peace, protection and guidance from God. To do this, first you need to give up self-reliance. Let go of attempts to control everything with your own strength, and instead place all your trust in the one who knows the future and is working in your best interests. This has not been an easy journey, but it is a meaningful journey, where you will find a profound peace that surpasses all human understanding. Imagine your life is like a small boat on a big sea. There are days when the waves are calm, but there are also times when the storm comes suddenly, makes you feel confused, don't know where to go. Living in the shadow of God is like being equipped with a perfect compass, always guiding you to safety, even when the sky is dark and no light shines. But to use that compass, you have to be willing to put your trust in it. Be willing to give up trying to direct yourself in times when you don't know the path ahead. This is the promise in Psalm 91. When you choose to be in His shadow, you are not only protected but also guided. Not only protected but also restored. A real-life example of this is the story of a young mother facing a cancer diagnosis. At first, she felt overwhelmed by fears about the future, for herself, for the children, and for the family. But instead of letting worry control her, she decided to put her trust in God. Every morning, she starts her day by reading Psalm 91. Let the promises therein penetrate into her soul and become the source of her strength. She shared that although challenges continue, but she felt a peace she had never experienced before. She no longer feels burdened by fear, but rather a certainty that God holds her and her family in His mighty hand. Being with God is not a passive state, but a proactive action, an ongoing commitment. This requires you to seek His presence every day. Through prayer, through God's Word, and through listening to His voice in daily decisions. It's like building a house. And each day you lay another brick on the solid foundation of trust in God. Consider, if you truly let God control every aspect of your life, what will change? Perhaps you will feel more relieved. More freedom, because you no longer have to carry the heavy burden of worry and responsibility. May you find peace even in the most difficult circumstances, because you know you're not alone. One of the greatest challenges in being with God is giving up self-reliance. We live in a world that teaches that success is the result of personal control and effort. But Psalm 91 challenges this view. Calls us to let go of the desire to control and instead entrust everything to God. This doesn't mean that you stop working hard, or stop making responsible decisions. It's that you put all those efforts under God's guidance. One story that illustrates this is that of a young entrepreneur who faced the risk of losing the company he had spent years building. When everything seemed to fall apart, he started praying every morning. Use Psalm 91 as a reminder that God is still in control, even if you can't see it. Over time, he realized that his decisions were enlightened, and his company was not only saved but also grew stronger than before. Being with God also means living in an ongoing relationship with Him. Think about the one relationship you value most in your life. Perhaps it's a close friend or family member. You spend time with them, you talk to them, and you build that relationship day by day. Likewise, a relationship with God also needs to be nurtured. You cannot expect to find peace and protection if you only turn to Him in difficult times. Being with God requires you to continually seek His presence, not just for brief moments, but throughout life. Try to imagine a close friend that you only see when you need help. They may still be there. But the relationship will never deepen if you don't take the time to truly connect. Likewise, you cannot understand God well or feel His protection if you only turn to Him when you are in trouble. This relationship is not one-sided. It requires active participation from both sides. God is always ready, but you also need to open your heart to receive Him. Being with God is an invitation to live a life not dominated by worry or fear. Because you know that He is in control of everything. But to do that, you need consistency in your relationship with Him. This means praying not only when you need something, but also to express gratitude and seek guidance. It also means reading and meditating on God's Word not just to look for answers, but also to gain a deeper understanding of Him and His plan for you. A real-life example of this is the story of a young woman who went through an extremely difficult period in life. She lost her job, faced financial worries and lost confidence in herself. In a deadlock, she decided to start each day with prayer and reading the Bible. Especially Psalm 91. She doesn't look for immediate solutions. That she sought peace in her soul. Over time, she realized that her relationship with God not only helped her face difficulties, but also opens up new opportunities that she never thought of. The peace she found in her ongoing relationship with God not only helped her overcome challenges, but also gave her a deep sense of purpose in life. When you choose to live in an ongoing relationship with God, you will find that He is not only a refuge but also an inspiration, strength and guidance in all areas of life. But like any other relationship, this one requires investment. You need to take time to seek Him, to hear His voice through God's Word, and to learn to trust Him even when things seem unanswerable. This doesn't mean you won't encounter difficulties or challenges. But in every situation, you will never have to face it alone. Think of your relationship with God as an anchor that holds you steady amid life's storms. But that anchor can only work if you decide to use it. If you are willing to trust Him completely. Life today is full of distractions and pressures. From work, family to social relationships. But during the busiest times, maintaining an ongoing relationship with God is more important than ever. You might ask yourself, how can I live a busy life while still maintaining this relationship? The answer lies in commitment and prioritization. When you put God first, everything else will naturally fall into place. This doesn't mean you have to spend hours every day praying or reading the Bible, but rather that you consistently seek Him in every aspect of your life. It could be a short prayer as you start your day, or a moment of reflection when facing a tough decision. What matters most is consistency and sincerity. Living in a continuous relationship with God not only benefits you, but it also becomes an inspiration for those around you. When you live a life rooted in peace and trust in God, others will notice and want to know your secret. You don't have to be perfect to be a testament to God's love. It is in moments of weakness that His strength is most clearly revealed. This is a reminder that your relationship with God is not just about receiving peace and protection, but also for you to be a light, leading others closer to Him. Finally, remember that an ongoing relationship with God is not a responsibility, but a privilege. You are called into a relationship in which you are loved, protected and guided by the one who knows you better than anyone else. Let this relationship become the foundation of your life, and you'll see that no challenge is too great. There is no pain too deep for you to overcome when you live in His constant presence. When you choose to be with God, you not only find peace for yourself, but also become a source of inspiration for those around. People who see your peace and strength in difficult situations will be curious and want to know your secret. They will see that you are not governed by the pressures of this world, because you live in the shadow of the Almighty. This doesn't mean you won't encounter challenges, but that in every trial, you have a place to turn to. A source of strength that never runs out. Let Psalm 91 be the foundation of your life. A reminder that being with God is not just an option, but a lifestyle that brings deeper meaning and purpose to your life. Psalm 91 is not just a hymn, but also an endless source of inspiration for those who are looking for peace, courage and hope in life's darkest moments. True stories of how this hymn has touched the lives of millions over the centuries is a powerful testament to God's power. During the war, amidst the sounds of bombs and imminent death, there was a young soldier who said that every day he read Psalm 91 before going into battle. Not just to ask for protection, but to remind myself that I am never alone. Verse, "He will command his angels to guard you in all your ways," brought him an extraordinary feeling of peace. Help him gain more strength and courage. He said, even though his comrades around him fell, but he always felt an invisible force protecting him. And he believed that it was the shadow of the Almighty that kept him safe. This story is more than a testament to God's presence, but also a reminder that in the most difficult of circumstances, we can find hope when we put our trust in Him. In a completely different context, a mother faces the biggest nightmare of her life. When her young son was diagnosed with a serious illness, she spent many sleepless nights sitting by my child's hospital bed with the fear that every moment could be the last moment. But instead of letting fear take control, she found Psalm 91. Especially the sentence, "No plague shall come near your dwelling." Every day, she recited this verse as a prayer, as an affirmation that God is with her family. Over time, she felt a deep peace, a feeling that everything is under God's control. Although her son did not recover immediately, but she believes that it is faith in God helped her have enough strength to get through the most difficult days. And then something magical happened. The boy began to recover. Her story is not only a testament to God's healing power, but also an encouragement that when we put our trust in Him, nothing is impossible. Not just in war or disease, but even in everyday challenges. Psalm 91 remains a powerful source of encouragement. A young professional is facing financial instability. Found comfort in the sentence, "Thousands may fall beside you, but it will not come near you." When you see friends and colleagues around you losing their jobs, she felt scared and worried about her future. But instead of letting worry take over, she chose to believe in God's promises. Every day, she prayed. Read Psalm 91 and remind yourself of God's protection. Covers not only her life but also her livelihood. This gives her the strength to continue working hard and make wise decisions. As a result, not only keep your job, she also received a promotion. Her story emphasizes that when we put our trust in God, He not only protects us but also blesses us. These stories remind us that every difficulty is just a challenge. They are not a sign that God has left us, but an opportunity for Him to strengthen our faith and build us into stronger people. Think about times when you felt weak or hopeless. Maybe it's while facing illness, loss, or major life changes. Psalm 91 is a reminder that you are never alone. Even if you can't see or feel it, God is still working for your best interests. This doesn't mean that life will always be easy, but it means that you will always have a shelter, a safe shade where all the fears and pressures of life cannot reach you. These stories remind us that every difficulty is just a challenge. They are not a sign that God has left us, but an opportunity for Him to strengthen our faith and build us into stronger people. Every challenge in life is not merely an obstacle, but also a valuable lesson for us to grow in faith. Difficulties are not meant to weaken us, but to remind us that God is preparing us for greater things. When you face life's storms, remember that God never allows you to fight alone. He is always there, guiding you through every step. even though you may not see or realize it. This is the promise of Psalm 91. That even when we are tested to our limits, God is still working for our best interests. Ponder the profound meaning of having a shelter. A safe shade that nothing can destroy. In life, we often seek peace and security in tangible things. Money, relationships, work, or social status. But Psalm 91 reminds that true protection does not come from these things, but comes from the Most High Himself, who never wavers and is always faithful. When you live in the shadow of God, you are surrounded by His boundless love and care. It's not an abstract promise, but a living reality that you can feel in every step of your life. Even when you feel like the world is collapsing around you, you can rest assured that God has created a safe place for you. A place that no power in this world can invade. God's protection is not limited to the physical realm, but also covers your spirit and emotions. Psalm 91 reminds us that God not only protects us from tangible dangers, but also from the inner battles we face every day. Fears, doubts, and negative emotions cannot overcome God's power. In Him, we find the peace that passes all understanding. A peace unaffected by surrounding circumstances. When you put your trust in God, you will not only find comfort but also receive strength to overcome all challenges. This is a powerful reminder that nothing in this life can shake your faith. When you lean on Him. Psalm 91 also challenges us to look at ourselves and ask, can we really trust God in every aspect of life? Living in the shadow of the Almighty is not a passive state. It is a proactive act of placing one's entire life under His protection and guidance. This requires us to give up control, let go of fear, and trust that God knows the best path for us. This is not an easy action, because it goes against human instinct. But when you choose to do so, you will see that not only is there protection, but also freedom and joy. That freedom comes from knowing you don't have to fight alone, because God has overcome everything in life for you. Think about the promise in the sentence. He will command His angels to guard you in all your ways. This is not just an assertion, but also an assurance that God is always watching over you. No matter where you go or what you do. Angels are not just symbols, but a real presence in your life. Helps you overcome difficulties that you are not even aware of. This is a powerful image. Reminder that God isn't just concerned about the big issues in your life, but also down to the smallest details. This not only sheds light on God's concern, but also strengthens your belief that you are always surrounded by Him in every situation. Every time you feel the pressure or burden of life pressing down on you, remember that Psalm 91 is a promise to you. It reminds us that nothing is too great for God's power, and no trial can overcome His mercy. Let the words of this psalm be a guiding light. Brings hope and strength so you can overcome all challenges. By living in His shadow, not only do you get protection, but also feel a deep peace. A feeling that everything is under the control of someone who loves you unconditionally. Never forget that every difficulty is just a part of a larger plan that God has in store for you. A plan that not only brings peace, but also joy and purpose in your life. Let Psalm 91 be the foundation of your faith. Let its promises remind you that no test is too great for God's power. Every time you feel overwhelmed by circumstances, remember that every difficulty is just a challenge. And every challenge has a purpose. Trials are not meant to destroy us, but to help us learn to depend more on God, trust Him more, and experience His unconditional love more deeply. These stories are not only testaments to God's mercy, but also a call to all of us. Trust in Him, because He never fails. Trust that every difficulty is just a part of God's greater plan, to lead you to a life full of meaning and blessings. Breaking the promise. Victory over fear and evil is an invitation not only to recognize God's strength and mercy, but also to enter into His protection and power in every aspect of life. Psalm 91 is not simply an ancient hymn, but a spiritual map, instructing us on how to live in the presence and protection of the Most High. To better understand the power of each of God's promises, let's explore the layers of deep meaning behind each sentence and each word. Each passage in the Psalms contains a powerful message of God's protection, rescue and faithfulness, providing hope and courage to face whatever challenges life brings. Verses 1 to 4 begin with the image of God as our refuge and fortress. A strong fortress that cannot be shaken in the midst of a great storm. Imagine a scene where a storm winds through, threatening to sweep away everything in its path. But in the midst of all that chaos, you find a place of absolute safety. It is not just a physical refuge, but also a mental space where you can breathe a sigh of relief, and let all the burdens fall from your shoulders. God not only protects us from obvious dangers, but is also a source of spiritual comfort in the most difficult moments of life. The image of His wings, like a protective umbrella, brings both a strong and gentle feeling. Those wings are the perfect combination of power and love. Like the way a mother protects her children from lurking dangers. When you feel weak and don't know where to turn, God's faithfulness becomes an invisible shield to help you overcome fear. A solid promise that He always accompanies you, never leaving distant. This verse reminds us that God is present not only when things go well, but also when life becomes full of difficulties. His protective wings are a testament to the protection that never fades, even when we face unpredictable challenges. This not only brings peace of mind, but also encourages us to put our complete trust in Him, knowing that He always has the best plan for our lives. Think about the times you felt helpless, not knowing what would happen next, but still had an inexplicable peace filling your soul. It's a sign of God's presence in your life, an assurance that everything will be okay no matter how strong the storm is. God is depicted as a stronghold, a place where enemies cannot penetrate. This is not just about protection from physical threats, but also mental protection from constant fears, worries, and doubts. When we enter into an intimate relationship with God, we not only find security, but we find true peace. A state that nothing in this world can shake. His faithfulness is the foundation of this protection. A reminder that He never changes, that His promises are always trustworthy. Even when the world around us seems to be falling apart, He is still there. A place we can lean on. Imagine that you are standing on top of a mountain, surrounded by dark clouds and roaring thunder. But right there, you realize you are not afraid because you are standing in the shadow of strong wings. God's strength and gentleness. This is not a vague image, but a spiritual reality that anyone who puts their faith in Him can experience. This image not only inspires, but also brings deep comfort, reminding us that God is always near, always ready to protect us in every situation. Whenever we feel weak, whenever life feels vague and uncertain, we can remember that God is our unshakable refuge, a fortress that nothing can breach. Verses 5 to 7 extend God's protection, providing a sense of security that passes all understanding. Whether we face great threats or subtle dangers, the image of night terrors refers not simply to physical fears, but is also a symbol of the darkness of the soul, the anxieties, doubts, and mental nightmares that fuel them. We lose peace. Meanwhile, the arrow flying during the day is a reminder that daytime life is also full of sudden pressures and dangers. Whether day or night, whether it is the darkness of uncertainty or the bright light of clear trials, God's promise is always strong. He never leaves us. always there to protect and instruct. God's protection is not limited to a specific period of time or a single situation, but extends throughout our lives. This is an eternal promise. An assurance that no matter what happens, we can always find security in Him. When we face dangers, inner battles, unexpected situations, or even life's failures, this promise is like a shining beacon, reminding us that nothing can surpass the power and mercy of God. His protection is not only defensive, but also proactive, helping us overcome difficulties and withstand every storm. What is notable in these verses is the promise of unconditional peace. A kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances, but comes from God's constant presence in life. When you feel overwhelmed by responsibilities, worries, or uncertainties, remember that this promise is always there, like an umbrella protecting you from all danger and fear. God not only promises to protect us from specific threats, but also from invisible fears, feelings of anxiety and insecurity that can overwhelm our minds. His protection transcends all limits, embracing our entire lives, not only in moments of need, but also in times when we are unaware of His presence. When we read these verses, we are invited to live with absolute confidence, not because life is without difficulties, but because we have the assurance that we will never be alone. These promises are not only comforting, but also a strong source of motivation for us to face life with courage and hope. When God says that His protection transcends day and night, it means that there is no time, no situation where He is not present. This reminds us that no matter what challenges come our way, we always have a place to return to, a place where nothing can harm us. God's protection, as mentioned in these verses, is not an abstract promise, but a reality that can be felt in every moment of life. He is not just a protector standing at a distance, but a close companion, always following us in every step. His presence not only brings safety, but also a feeling of being loved, cared for, and accompanied. This is the profound meaning of the protection that Psalm 91 brings. A promise that never fades, and is always ready for us to cling to in every situation of life. Verses 11 to 12 in Psalm 91 provide a clear picture of the role angels play in God's plan of protection, illuminating the level of detailed and personal care He has for each person. Angels are described as devoted guardians, not only observing from afar, but also participating directly in our lives, always ready to support us when we face challenges. Their presence is a symbol of God's mercy, demonstrating that no difficulty in life is too small or too great for Him to ignore. The image of angels lifting us up, keeping us from falling, not only emphasizes physical protection, but also shows a comprehensive care, including spiritual and emotional. God not only empowers angels to protect us, but also instructs them to guard our every step. This emphasizes the truth that no moment in our lives is outside of His sight. Angels are depicted not only as sentinels, but also as companions, always present in every situation, whether we are strong or weak. Images of them lifting us up in our most difficult times remind us that we never have to face our challenges alone. God has placed us in special care, and even when we are not aware of it, He is working silently to guide and protect us. The protection of angels, as described in these verses, is not an abstract concept, but a promise that can be felt through every moment of life. Whether we are going through heavy trials, or simply peaceful days, the presence of angels is a reminder of God's attention to the smallest detail. This is also an invitation for us to trust in His providence, to put our full trust in Him always working for our good. Verses 11 to 12 also emphasize that this protection is not limited to special circumstances, but is an ongoing part of our lives. Angels guard not only in moments of danger, but also in the most ordinary moments. This creates a feeling of absolute security, that we are always surrounded by God's care and concern. And there is never a moment when we are abandoned or forgotten. By supporting us and preventing us from falling, angels are also symbols of God's mercy and patience. Their presence affirms that God is not just watching from afar, but is always close, ready to intervene and support when needed. This is not only a promise of protection, but also a reminder that God's care for us is personal, detailed, and unrelenting. This image also inspires us to live with gratitude, realizing that even when we don't see it, God is always working to guide and protect us in every situation. The participation of angels in our lives is also proof of the trust that God wants us to place in Him. They are tasked not only to protect, but also to guide us in the right direction, prevent us from unnecessary harm, and help us overcome challenges with courage and peace. This reminds us that, no matter how difficult life becomes, we always have unwavering support, an unchanging protection that comes from unconditional love of God. The promise in verses 11 to 12 is not only an affirmation of protection, but also an invitation to live with absolute trust. When we face challenges and uncertainties in life, we can rest assured that nothing is beyond God's control. He does not just stand on the sidelines observing, but always directly participates in our lives, through the presence of angels. This protection not only helps us overcome challenges, but also inspires us to live a meaningful life, realizing that we are never alone, that God always accompanies and guides us in every step. Verse 13 takes God's protection to a whole new level, where protection is not just about covering, but also about empowerment. The images of stepping on lions and cobras symbolize the scariest and most difficult challenges in life. These are not just physical challenges, but also deep mental and emotional obstacles that we face. The lion, with its strength and ferocity, represents clear, immediate dangers, challenges that we cannot avoid. Meanwhile, the cobra, with its sophistication and hidden danger, is a symbol of unpredictable dangers, plots and traps that we may not be immediately aware of. However, this verse strongly affirms that, with God's help, we can not only overcome these dangers, but can also crush them, making what once threatened become harmless under our feet. The victory emphasized here is not only the escape from danger, but also the affirmation of the strength that God has given each person. God not only protects us from dangers, but also equips us with the strength and courage to face them. This is a reminder that we do not need to live in fear, that any difficulty, no matter how big or small, cannot compare to the power of God. This strength does not come from ourselves, but from God's presence in our lives. An outstanding strength that helps us not only stand firm, but also overcome challenges with confidence and peace. When we look back at the deeper meaning of this verse, it is important to understand that stepping on lions and cobras is not just a physical act, but a spiritual statement. It affirms that we are not controlled by fear or the dangers around us. Instead, we are empowered to take control and overcome all difficulties, no matter how insurmountable they may seem. This is a strong call for us to step out of our comfort zone and face challenges without faltering. Because God not only stands by our side, but also leads the way, ensuring that every step we take is protected. Furthermore, stepping on also means that we not only overcome difficulties, but also turn those challenges into opportunities to grow and become stronger. Every time we face and overcome a lion or a cobra in our lives, we not only prove God's strength, but also affirm our faith and loyalty to Him. This victory is a testament to God's power working through us, A reminder that we never have to face challenges alone. God has given us the strength, not only to survive, but to live a life filled with meaning and victory. This verse also emphasizes that courage does not come from the absence of fear, but from knowing that God has given us the power to overcome fear. This is a reminder that any fear, whether obvious or hidden, cannot diminish the value of the protection and strength God gives. We are called to live a life not limited by fear, but instead, a life built on trust, courage, and gratitude to God. As we enter life's challenges, verse 13 offers strong encouragement that we never have to face those dangers alone. Whether there are lions roaring in front of us, or cobras lurking in the darkness, we have the power to overcome them. This is not a confidence that comes from oneself, but from the presence and power of God, which no danger can overcome. This verse affirms the undeniable truth that, no matter how great the difficulties, God's strength and protection are always greater. Verses 14 to 16 close the psalm with a promise full of meaning and hope, expressing God's deep commitment to those who love and trust Him. These promises do not stop at deliverance from physical dangers, but also extend to spiritual bonds, the invisible burdens we carry in our hearts. This is a powerful affirmation that God always sees the true value of each person, that He recognizes the loyalty, faith, and love we have for Him. These words not only bring comfort in difficult times, but also inspire us to live with gratitude, realizing that our lives have great significance in His eternal plan. The promise of deliverance is not just a temporary act, but a lasting assurance that God will always be present, ready to pull us out of any dangerous or desperate situation. This deliverance is not only intended to eliminate external dangers, but also to heal and free the soul from mental shackles such as fear, doubt, and feelings of loneliness. This clearly shows that God's concern is not limited to what can be seen, but also extends to what is invisible, what lies deep within each person's soul. Through deliverance, God demonstrates that He is an unshakable refuge, a source of strength that no power on earth can overcome. The honor God bestows in these verses is another important aspect, for it emphasizes that God not only rescues, but also enhances the worth of those who trust in Him. This is a reminder that He not only sees us in our moments of weakness, but also recognizes and appreciates our faithfulness. His bestowing honor on us is an affirmation that each person has immeasurable value and significance in His eyes. This inspires us to live a life of clear purpose, not only to glorify God, but also to be a reflection of His mercy and love to the world around us. The culmination of all these promises is eternal salvation, an eternal commitment that our lives do not stop on earth, but continue in the presence of God. This is a promise that nothing else on earth can compare to, for it ensures that every difficulty, suffering, and trial we face has meaning in His eternal plan. Eternal salvation is not only a word of comfort, but also a call for us to live with hope and courage, knowing that what we do today can have an impact far beyond what we can imagine. It is the assurance that God's love and mercy are endless, that we always have a place in His eternal kingdom. The conclusion of the psalm is an invitation for us to step out of the constraints of everyday life, and live a life full of meaning and purpose. This is not a call for us to avoid trials or difficulties, but to face them with trust and faithfulness in God. Each promise in these verses reminds us that we are never alone, that we always have a refuge in God, a Father who always sees our true worth, and is always ready to support and lead us. These words also encourage us not only to live for ourselves, but also to be a light to the world, reflecting God's love and mercy in every action and word. Verses 14 to 16 of Psalm 91 are not simply a promise, but an affirmation of the meaning of life in the light of God. Deliverance, honor, and eternal salvation are testaments to God's unconditional love and infinite mercy. This is not only an affirmation that we are valuable, but also an invitation to live a full life in Him. To be people who reflect His light and love in a world full of difficulties and challenges. All the promises in Psalm 91 lead to one central message. We do not need to fear, because God has committed to protect, guide, and bless us in every circumstance. When you live in His shadow, you are not only protected from dangers, but also equipped to face them with confidence. Psalm 91 is not only a reminder of God's love and faithfulness, but also a call to live with trust and gratitude, knowing that every difficulty is part of a greater plan He has prepared for us. In God's presence, we not only find safety, but also find peace beyond all understanding, a sense that nothing can shake our faith when we live in the shadow of the Almighty. Applying Psalm 91 to your daily life is an ongoing journey to transform God's noble promises into a living and meaningful reality. This not only brings protection and peace, but also helps you live a life of depth, where you reflect His love and mercy to everyone around you. These three important steps, remaining in His presence, trusting His promises, and sharing His love, are not just principles, but a way of life, creating a strong connection with God. And renew your faith every day. The first step, being in His presence, is not a momentary act but a call to long-term commitment. This requires you to build a deep, personal relationship with God through daily prayer, reflection, and worship. When you wake up in the morning, you can start your day with a simple but sincere prayer, inviting God into every decision, every aspect of your life. This not only brings peace from the first hours of the day, but also creates a solid foundation to face any challenges that may come. A day spent in God's presence is a day when you are guided by His light. A day when all your worries seem lighter, because you know that you never have to carry them alone. Being in His presence is not merely an act but a spiritual state, where you feel unshakable peace, even amid the turmoil of life. This is the state where you learn to let go of worries, and instead place everything in God's powerful hands. Living in His presence helps you understand that all difficulties are not insurmountable obstacles, but rather opportunities to grow in your faith. When you live with the awareness that God is present with you, each moment becomes a reminder of His unconditional love. From morning prayers to whispers in difficult moments, continually being in God's presence will change the way you see the world around you. You will realize that nothing happens outside of His plan and providence. God's presence not only brings security, but also inspires you to act with confidence that you are following the path He guides. This is especially important when you are faced with important decisions or major challenges. In those moments, God's presence will bring clarity, helping you see the deeper meaning of what you are experiencing. This is not only a way to find solace, but also a way to discover the purpose of your life. Being in His presence does not require you to be perfect. It just requires you to be sincere and willing. Every prayer, every moment of reflection, is a step closer to intimacy with Him. This is not just about prayer but also about how you live your life. When you choose to make God the center of everything you do, you will find that life becomes more meaningful. Everyday tasks, from small tasks to great responsibilities, become part of worship. Not only do you work to complete the task, but you also work with gratitude and dedication, realizing that everything you do can be a praise to God. Living in His presence also helps you build deeper relationships with those around you. You will learn to love sincerely, patiently, and forgive, because you understand that you too have been loved and forgiven unconditionally. This brings a transformation not only to your life, but also to the people you meet. When you choose to live in God's presence, You will also find that fear gradually fades away. Worries about the future and obsessions about past failures will no longer have the power to hold you back. Instead, you will find a new freedom. A confidence that comes not from your own abilities, but from trust in God's power. This not only helps you overcome challenges, but also helps you enjoy life more fully. Every day, every hour, every minute becomes a reminder that you are loved, protected, and guided by your Creator. This is not just a theory or a philosophy of life, but a real experience, a reality that you can feel and live in every moment. When you are in His presence, you not only live in the present, but also build a solid foundation for the future. The peace and protection you feel today will become your strength to face the challenges of tomorrow. This not only gives meaning to your life, but also inspires those around you. They will see the difference in the way you live, the way you face difficulties, and the way you spread peace and hope. This not only helps you live a meaningful life, but also helps you become a source of inspiration and a light to the world around you. Living in God's presence is not just a choice, but an invitation for you to enter a fuller, deeper, and more meaningful life. The second step, trusting His promises, reminds us that faith is not just an emotion but a conscious decisive. This faith is not only based on the promises of the Bible, but is also rooted in the knowledge of God's unchanging nature. In Psalm 91, powerful affirmations of God's protection are the foundation for this trust. Let these words be your shield from fear, helping you face life's challenges with the confidence that you are not alone. When you meditate on verses like, "He will protect you from the arrow that flies by day," or "No disaster will come near your dwelling," you are affirming your belief that God is always on your side, even in the darkest of times. This belief is not only a source of strength, but also an invitation for you to overcome all limits of fear, to step into unexplored lands with the courage that God has gone before and prepared everything for you. Trusting God is a proactive act, a way of life based on the knowledge that His faithfulness never fails. This doesn't mean you won't encounter difficulty or suffering, but you can rest assured that God will use every situation to lead you to something better. God's faithfulness is like a guiding light, even in the darkest nights. When you face your fears, remember that God has promised that He will never leave you or forget you. The promises in Psalm 91 are not just words, but a foundation for you to build solid faith, helping you stand firm when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Trusting God is not about abandoning your responsibilities, but about placing all your efforts in the context of His guidance and protection. You don't have to do everything alone. As you act with faith that God is working in and through you, you will notice that the burdens you carry become lighter. Trust is also an invitation to let go of control and let God direct your path. By doing so, you will discover true freedom, free from worries or worldly pressures. In everyday life, this can manifest itself in moments where you choose to put your trust in God, instead of worrying about things beyond your control. When you face a difficult decision or an uncertain situation, remember that God has promised that He will guide you and protect you. Not only will this help you feel at peace, but it will also give you the courage to keep moving forward. Faith is also not just belief in God's promises, but also the act of living out that belief. When you walk in faith, that you believe in God's faithfulness by taking action, even when you cannot see immediate results. Faith is not total certainty, but the choice to trust that God has a plan for you, even when you can't see the whole picture. Not only will this give you the strength to face challenges, but it will also help you develop the courage To pursue the things you believe God is calling you to do. Trusting in God also opens the door for you to be a light to others. When you live a life of faith, those around you will notice the difference. They will see how you face difficulties with peace and confidence. And this may inspire them to seek God in their lives. Trust is not only a gift you receive, but also a gift you can share with others. When you do this, you not only strengthen your own faith, but also help others find hope and protection in God. Practicing faith is also a way for you to deepen your relationship with God. As you learn to trust Him in all circumstances, you will find that your relationship with Him becomes more and more intimate. Not only will this bring peace, but it will also help you better understand God's character and His plan for your life. Trusting God is a lifelong journey, one that brings maturity and a deep understanding of His love and mercy. This will not only change the way you see the world, but it will also change the way you live each day, helping you become someone who can reflect God's light and love to the world around you. The final step, sharing His love, is a call for you to be an instrument of God in spreading hope and peace to the world. This not only means that you keep the promises of Psalm 91 to yourself, but also use them to encourage and motivate others. In a world filled with uncertainty, where many are looking for a place to turn, you can be a guiding light by sharing God's promises and mercy. This does not necessarily have to be through grand actions. Sometimes, a sincere word, a prayer, or a small act of kindness is enough to bring about change. When you share God's love, you not only enrich your relationship with Him, but also create a positive impact in your community, helping people realize that they, too, are called to live in His shadow. God's protective wings are not only a responsibility, but also a privilege. Because when you share His love, you are participating in God's great work of healing and bringing hope to the world. Sharing God's love starts with the simplest things: a sincere smile, a greeting, or a small help that comes from the heart. In the modern world, where people easily fall into a state of isolation, such actions take on a deeper meaning than ever. The promises in Psalm 91 become a reminder not only for you, but also for those you come into contact with. Every time you share your faith, you are planting seeds of hope in the souls of others, helping them see the light even in the darkest moments. This can happen in everyday conversations, in the advice you give a friend who is struggling, or even in the way you face personal challenges. When you show that you are living under God's protection, those around you will also feel the peace and strength that He offers. However, sharing God's love is not just an action, but also a way of life. It requires you to be consistent in the way you live and how you treat people. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but it does require sincerity and humility. When you live a life that reflects God's love, you are not only a witness but also a person who brings positive change to the world. This is an invitation for you to step out of your comfort zone. Open your heart and share what you have received from God. Not only will this act strengthen your faith, but it will also help you discover a new depth in your relationship with Him. Every time you spread God's love, you are helping to build a better world, where mercy and hope can spread to every corner. Applying Psalm 91 to your life is not just an occasional remembering of these promises, but an ongoing journey of living in God's protection and guidance. Being in His presence is how you can find peace and guidance in every situation. Trusting in His promises helps you eliminate fear and strengthen your courage and confidence to face every challenge. Sharing His love not only strengthens personal faith, but also extends the message of hope to those around us. In all of this, Psalm 91 is not simply a passage of the Bible, but also an invitation to live a meaningful life. reflecting God's love and mercy in every moment of life. This reminder is not just for you, but a gift you can give to the world. A world longing for hope, security, and peace. On this journey, sharing God's love will not only change the lives of those you come into contact with, but it will also change your own. You will feel the joy and satisfaction that comes from living a meaningful life, where every action points towards a greater purpose. The promises of Psalm 91 are not only a comfort, but also an inspiration to live courageously and passionately, knowing that you are called to do something greater than yourself. When you live in a spirit of sharing and service, you are making Psalm 91 a living part of your life, transforming it from a passage into a way of life, from a promise into a full reality. Not only will this enrich your life, but it will create a positive, far-reaching, and lasting impact on your community and the world. Psalm 91 does not promise a trouble-free life, but it promises something far greater, the assurance that God is always with us through every storm. Whether facing illness, loss, or uncertainty, this psalm invites us to rest in the care of a loving Father who sees us, knows us, and promises to deliver us. To truly grasp its meaning, we must look deeply into every facet of this sacred text. First and foremost, this does not mean that God will erase every challenge from our lives, but it does mean He is committed to walking with us and guiding us through them. It is a reminder that no matter how difficult the circumstances, we are never alone. The image of an almighty God, always extending His arms to protect and guide, inspires us to trust that no challenge is greater than His power. God does not promise to remove every storm, but He does promise to calm our hearts within the storm, granting us peace beyond all understanding. When illness or loss strikes, we are often overwhelmed by fear and helplessness. Yet the promise in Psalm 91 brings assurance that nothing can surpass the power and mercy of God. It is a call to let go of worry and completely surrender to His care. Psalm 91 is like a shield, protecting us from despair and reminding us that we always have a place to return to, a safe haven that cannot be shaken. When we face significant challenges such as loss or uncertainty, it is essential to remember that God does not abandon us. He sees our pain and understands deeply what we are going through. But instead of removing all difficulties, He grants us the strength to endure and, more importantly, to grow through these trials. Imagine a mountain you must climb. The journey is not easy, but God is always there, step by step, helping you ascend higher and guiding you through each obstacle. This assurance brings not only hope but also teaches us to trust deeply in His plan. Challenges are not merely obstacles, but valuable lessons, helping us realize that in our weakest moments, God's strength is revealed most clearly. There is no circumstance beyond the reach of God's love, no pain too great for His mercy to soothe. Psalm 91 is a reminder that no matter where you are or what you face, you are never forsaken. Even in your loneliest moments, His angels are present, protecting you from dangers you may not even realize exist. Reflect on the promise that He will cover you with His feathers. This imagery not only provides a sense of safety but also symbolizes closeness and love. It serves as a reminder that you are not just a mere individual in the vastness of the world, you are a beloved child of God, cared for in every detail. In life, we cannot avoid moments when we must make tough decisions or face situations that seem insurmountable. But Psalm 91 teaches us that instead of carrying everything on our own, we should place our trust in God. When you surrender your worries to Him, you will feel an inexplicable lightness and peace. This is the power of faith, a strength that can dispel all darkness and bring light even in the darkest circumstances. And when you do this, you not only find peace for yourself, but also become an inspiration to those around you. Trusting in God not only helps you overcome challenges but also gives you the strength to help and encourage others. Psalm 91 is also a reminder that God's love and protection have no limits. No matter how weak or defeated you may feel, remember that God always looks at you with eyes full of love and forgiveness. His promise to deliver is not just about escaping physical dangers, but also about spiritual healing. God is not only a refuge where you can find shelter, but also a source of renewal, hope, and new life. This psalm is not merely a word of comfort but an invitation to step into a deeper relationship with God, where all pain and insecurity are replaced by love and assurance. As you meditate on the promises in Psalm 91, let these words be a guiding light, helping you face every challenge with courage and faith. This is not just an ancient psalm, but a love letter from God, reminding you that you are always loved, always protected, and always have a place where you belong. Let Psalm 91 be more than just words on a page. Let it become a living source of strength and faith in your life, guiding you through every storm and leading you toward a future filled with hope. When it comes to illness, Psalm 91 paints the image of God as a powerful father, ready to protect his children from all harm. In the weakest moments, when the body is weary and the soul is heavy, the assurance that God will cover you with his feathers becomes a powerful source of encouragement. This is not just a word of comfort, but also an affirmation that God does not abandon us, even in the harshest trials. Deliverance may not always come in the way we expect. Instead of completely removing pain, God may give us the strength to endure and overcome, or send people and resources to help us find healing. This is not just a sign of mercy but also an affirmation that everything is part of his perfect plan. As the story closes, let the words of Psalm 91 resonate in your soul. Because he has loved me, I will rescue him. This is not just a promise, but an affirmation that God's love for us is unconditional and eternal. That love invites you to put all your trust in him. Not because life will always go smoothly, but because in every storm, God is always by your side, protecting and guiding you. He is not only your shelter, but also your guiding light, helping you find meaning and purpose even in the darkest moments. Take some quiet time to reflect. What does your life need right now? Are you looking for peace, hope, or a way to overcome challenges? Offer all of that to God right now. He is waiting for you, ready to hold you in his loving arms. Pray with me. Lord, I thank you for your love and protection in my life. Help me to put all my trust in you and live each day in your presence. I place all my worries, fears, and hopes into your hands. Please guide me, protect me, and help me become a light to those around me. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. If this message has touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share with those who you think need a little hope, a word of comfort, or a reminder that they are never alone. Join us in spreading God's love, so that the words in Psalm 91 are not just words, but become real power for everyone's daily lives. Don't forget to support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing. This not only helps the channel grow, but also helps more people know this powerful and meaningful message. May God's love and protection accompany you every step of the way.